in 2 or 3 years, I could bought him back for probably $1,000 or $1,500. In early 70s, I started showing paint horses because Jerry Wells and Matlock Rose and all of those big time professional type trainers were not showing in the APHA yet. And I could work a full-time job and go to a local show on the weekend and still place and still make some progress. In my career, I ended up with a 1 reserve national champion. I won the Texas Halter Futurity with the yearling filly, and I won the yearling fillies at Fort Worth in 1974. This story starts in 1973 when I went down to Saginaw, Texas to a man named R.B. Shields' place, and I bought a big gelding named Rapid Charge. And while I was there, the APHA, American Paint Horse Association, had a table set up to take entries for their national show in Denver, which took place 60 days later. Well, this horse I bought had 1 roping point, so I took him home, and he didn't know much about roping. And I had Terry Riddle riding him for me and training him all the time, every day. I entered him in the calf roping, the heading, and the heeling at the Denver National Show. And every time I went out to Terry's, I'd ask him, how's he doing on the heading? And he'd say, well, I hadn't got to that yet. I'm afraid that'll mess up his stopping, and I don't want to do that yet. So we got to Denver, and he placed twice in the calf roping, and then the heading came up, and I told Terry, I said, just go out and throw it in the dirt if you want to, and he said, hell no, I'm going to try to win something. And he went out and he did place him 2 days, and those were the first steers that had ever been roped on this horse, after I bought him anyway. And they also placed 1 time in the heeling. Then we get home, and that was in August, and all fall, Terry was taking care of 600 or 700 head of wheat pasture cattle, some up north by Electra, some down south of his house by Windthorst. He had his nephew working for him. His name was Jimmy Farr. And in the morning, they'd leave there with 1 horse and my horse and Rapid Charge in the trailer. And then after they checked all those cattle up there north at Electra, they'd come back by the house for lunch. Terry would change horses, but Jimmy stayed on Rapid Charge. So they worked him pretty hard. Then we go to the Fort Worth Stock Show, and he finishes 2nd in the calf roping class. So we're getting ready to go to San Antonio to the stock show, and we're starting out with Terry and I are driving down there, and we leave Wichita Falls, and then I told Terry, I said, oh, so-and-so may want to buy this horse. And Terry said, don't you sell this horse. Said, this is the best horse I ever rode. And after him telling me all fall, if you can sell this son of a gun anywhere, get it done. And he won San Antonio roping, and he won 8 more local weekend shows in a row. So he had 9 wins in a row. Then we go to Jackson, Mississippi to the national show. And at the national show, they have regular show every day for 3 days. And there's no qualifying to enter, no nothing, you just have to enter. And although we were perfectly qualified after winning 9 shows. So the first day, Terry wins it. The second day, Terry wins it on Rapid Charge, my horse. That night, Stanley Williamson came to my hotel room and said, "What do you want for Rapid Charge?" And I said, "Well, I want 20,000, just like I told you at home." And he said, "Well, I'll take him." I said, "Okay, but he's mine until tomorrow." And I said, "When I get home, I'll deliver him to your house." And he said, "Okay, I'll have a check waiting on you." Well, Terry and I thought he had the best run ever all week on the third day. But the judge didn't evidently think so, because he put him fifth. So there was a horse that had a first, second, and a third. And we had 2 first and a fifth. And the one with the first, second, and the third beat us for national champion. We were reserve national champion. But that morning, Jimmy Willis came by my stalls and said, "Well, I heard you sold your rope horse." And I said, "Yes, sir, I guess I did." And he said, "Let me tell you something." Said, "You can make a living buying and selling that horse, as long as you got Terry at home to put on him." And I kind of believe that, because couldn't anybody else rope on him but Terry. You had to throw it when you got there. He wouldn't have any rate in him. He wouldn't wait on a cow. You had to throw it when you got there. And besides that, Terry had told me on the way to Jackson, he'd said, "I'm leaving Wichita Falls and I'm going to Midland to work for Marion Flint." So that was that. I was glad I got him sold. And but in 2 or 3 years, I could bought him back for probably $1,000 or $1,500. They just could not get along with him. He wasn't a horse for a kid to learn on, and you just couldn't do it. And that's my story of the paint horse business.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode of Horse Stories on Global Horse Network. We'd like to thank this month's sponsor, the Mustang Heritage Foundation. If you like what we're doing, be sure and click that like button. If you want to leave a comment, be sure and comment below, but be kind, because my ego is fragile. You want to be sure to ring that bell if you want to be notified when we're posting new content. And as always, if you want to be part of the Global Horse Network team, be sure and subscribe above.